Verona Murphy, please.
Thank you, Corla. Taoiseach, whistleblower Shane Corr was suspended last week because he put in the public domain information that explained the dysfunctionality of the Department of Health and the HSE. His actions were admirable and were without doubt in the public interest. He has done this state some service, but it appears if you do the state a service, you will get suspended. Taoiseach, the County Chief Executive of Wexford County Council, Tom Enright, has had one of the most damaging findings from SIPO against him. And rather than suspend him pending an investigation, the councillors in Wexford exonerated him, gave him a round of applause and a standing ovation. These councillors were led by Fianna Fáil's chair, Councillor Barbara Ann Murphy. SIPO found among other things that Mr Enright was using the weight of the public purse to influence editorial content at the local radio station South East Radio. And days after the finding, Wexford County Council wrote to South East Radio seeking to influence editorial content yet again. Now, I raised it in the House with you previously, Taoiseach, and quite rightly, you condemned this appalling behaviour. But following your condemnation, Wexford County Council for a third time wrote to South East Radio seeking to negotiate the editorial terms in exchange for advertising in the guise of a service level agreement. South East Radio has called for an independent investigation, and according to yesterday's Irish Times, they say that they are supported in their call by the Independent Broadcasters of Ireland. Now, Taoiseach, your colleague, Fianna Fáil chairperson Barbara Ann Murphy, said that she was considering how to move matters forward. And in that regard, the Chief Executive, Mr Enright, and Fianna Fáil councillor Murphy now want to mediate on the terms of the editorial output of the radio station. It appears, Taoiseach, they think it's appropriate to mediate on one of the most fundamental principles that underwrites our democracy and our constitution. That's the freedom of the press. It further appears that the government councillors believe that the only wrong caused in this controversy was that all correspondence was in writing. The controversy is very damaging and dangerous, not just for Wexford, but as a whole. Taoiseach, do you think it's appropriate to mediate with the broadcaster on its editorial policy? I don't believe you do. My question is, when will you take action
for issues facing all of us on this island?
Thank you,
those issues can be addressed.
Give effect to your own words and suspend the Chief Executive pending the outcome of an investigation conducted by an independent senior counsel to be appointed? Or, Taoiseach, do you believe, as your actions to date would suggest, that a damning finding from SIPO is so irrelevant that no action should be taken?
Thank you, Deputy Taoiseach.
Don't know what you mean by my actions to date. Just park that for a moment. And what I would say to the Deputy is that in the first instance, in terms of, you raise the issue in terms of an individual that you identified, I think Mr Shane Corr. It's not appropriate for me to be discussing human resource issues in terms of individuals. And I think there are many aspects to that entire situation that merits an objective assessment. I'd say no more than that in terms of what appears to have transpired there, which some would have some misgivings about in terms of I'm talking about others who participated in meetings and who would have been speaking freely, not realising perhaps that what they were saying was being either recorded or and then sent, distributed. But I think that's an issue that needs to be resolved and dealt with within the HR structures of the Department of Health. So I'll say no more than that at this stage. In relation to the county manager in Wexford, I've made my position very clear in respect of the SIPO judgment on that and conclusion. And I've also made it very clear that no county manager, no local authority should ever attempt to leverage any advertisements or in any local station or indeed any newsprint media should leverage that with a view to editorial control or in somehow influencing the content of any program or any news program, or in any way attempting to interfere in the editorial independence of a news outlet. That's not right, that's wrong. I've said that repeatedly. And I stand by that. Now, there are various mechanisms and structures. We are not the local authority here. We're the Dáil. The local authority has mechanisms available to it if it so wishes, to deal with any issues that relate to a manager or whatever. That's a matter for the authority, and they have to look at it in the round. They have to make their judgments. That's why we have local authorities. Very often deputies in this House come in and criticise the lack of independence and autonomy for local authorities. But the first time, then when an issue arises in a local authority, the Minister of the Day or the Taoiseach must intervene straight away. We have democratically, locally elected authorities. They need to get on with it. Now, the person you mentioned in terms of the Caherlig, Councillor Barbara Ann Murphy, I don't know why you're personalising it to that, because I think it's a cross-party approach seems to be adopted in relation to this, not any one particular party or one individual. But I happen to know the Caherlig, and I would have found her down through the years to be a very decent person.
Thank you, Taoiseach.
And a person of integrity. So I don't think it's fair that you would come in to sort of personalise it to the degree that you have.
Deputy.
And Taoiseach, we've heard it all before. Every time you say it, it just gets ignored. And I think when you talk about honesty being the order of the day, the key point here, Taoiseach, is that when you do something right in the civil service to ensure the public are safeguarded, you get punished. And when you do something wrong and the state watchdog is scathing in its delivery of a report on that wrongdoing, you get a round of applause and a standing ovation from a county council led by a chair, a Fianna Fáil chair, Barbara Ann Murphy. That's the point. And I think if that's the picture you want to paint, Taoiseach, well, I think that's very damning in itself. And here we have a report that's damning to the core of standards in public office, and it appears without consequence for the Chief Executive, and as a result the wrongdoings will be repeated and are ongoing, causing a scandal for Wexford. This is no longer an issue for the councillors, Taoiseach. This is now a political issue. And as far as I'm concerned, there were all parties that supported the Chief Executive and ignored the report. But your party, Fianna Fáil, led the council through the chair, Barbara Ann Murphy. And if you can't take charge of the matter and appoint an independent investigator and place the Chief Executive on garden leave pending an outcome, we don't have much regard for freedom of the press.
Thank you very much.
I don't have the powers to appoint an independent investigator into the local authority. But there are established structures, first of all, within the local authority to deal with this. And you should engage with the council, the councillors yourself. Meet all the parties on the council, if that is your view, and hear what they're saying. But I don't, it was cross-party, as you admitted yourself earlier. It was cross-party, as you admitted yourself, and I do not support what transpired in respect of SIP. I've made that very clear. And I do not, it does matter actually. It does matter. It does matter. And if it doesn't matter, why are you raising it? I have responded to you in terms of the principle of this, and when I went down to Wexford, in the presence and with the radio station, I made it very clear. Again, you're interrupting. I made it very clear that it's absolutely unacceptable for any local authority to try and interfere or editorially control any radio station or any newspaper by dint of the fact that it invests in advertising. That is wrong. SIPR have called that out. And I made that very clear, but I don't know why you're trying to twist it and personalise it in the manner that you've done today, which is not good either.
These are facts.